Well, I'm down playing with this M57 with some Chinese ammo that Brian had sent. Or I'm pretty sure it's Chinese. It's got some weird writing on it. Steel cased. Interesting stuff. I like that tokarev round. I really like it. It's got a lot of snap to it. But it's fine with the steel case stuff because it really throws the brass. It's hard to. So when I use my brass reloads, they tend to disappear. But a nice gun, thin, slim gun. See what I'm doing. Brian had also sent, at one time, this book, Traveler's Guide to Firearm Laws of the 50 States. Now, I got reading in this. I don't do a lot of traveling. But one time I had asked one of the deputies exactly how the laws were in North Dakota for carrying in a vehicle. And they really couldn't tell me. The first thing they said, well, I'll put it in the trunk and lock it, and it's not a lot of good in the trunk. But there's a problem. The gun that I carry most of the time is my Nagant. Now the problem comes up, it's perfectly fine to carry this if it's unloaded. It can be sitting in the seat beside you, no problem. But it is not handy if it's unloaded, because they consider any cylinder, in a revolver, if it's loaded, the cylinder is considered a chamber. So then it is considered to be loaded. Whereas with an automatic, as long as there's not one in the chamber, it's not considered loaded. The magazine can be loaded as long as the chamber is empty. It's not considered to be loaded. The same with long guns. That's in this state. Now every state is different. So the problem I run into is with the Nagant. Though the Nagant is perfectly harmless being loaded, you don't accidentally shoot a Nagant. That takes determined will. So I'm thinking for my lugging a gun around, because I end up using the gun at least once a week, putting down something. So, I'm not going to monkey around and load and unload the Nagant constantly. It's what I prefer to carry up here. But like when I'm out on the road, I'm going to have a gun along, then evidently the Nagant really isn't the proper choice for that. So I was thinking of the tokarev, because I like that cartridge. But fine as long as you've got brass that you're not concerned about. But if I want to keep track of brass, that's not the proper choice. So then I do have the M70A, which is exactly the same thing, but it shoots a 9mm. At least then, 9mm, if you lose the brass, biggie. You can get 9mm anywhere. So that might be the best choice. I could use the 45 because legally you can have it loaded, well, the magazine loaded, as long as there's not one in the chamber. Sitting on the seat beside you is perfectly fine as long as it's in plain sight and at least part of the gun is visible, which, is up to interpretation, because now, like say, in these type of holsters, the gun really isn't visible, maybe a little bit of the hand grip. Now my 45, then, a good portion of the gun is visible. So I don't know, it's a quandary. The other choice is my Makarov, which I did lug around a lot before. Nice small compact gun with pretty good bite to it, especially these are hollow points. But there again, I don't know if they would consider this, when that's in the holster, the gun is not really visible. Though looking at it, you would know it was a gun. I have other holsters I could use that would leave more of the gun visible. Or you could always pull the gun out of the holster and have it sitting there. I guess that would make sense. Because it's perfectly fine to have a loaded magazine in the gun. You just can't have one in the chamber. Same with rifles. Like all my rifles and magazines are loaded. I got 3 of them in there. And everyone has a loaded magazine. There's just not anything in the chamber. So that's a quandary. Though I guess it'd be fine, as long as I got this Chinese stuff, I could carry the M57. And eventually when I run out of that, I'll have to rethink it or see if I can buy some more of this cheap Chinese stuff. It seems to work pretty good, fairly accurate, and it really zings. But then of course, I could get used to shooting just a 9mm, that M70A, because, like I said, brass for that is available. There's no problem there. But it's always a debate. Looking through this book, it's interesting because a lot of states have got some pretty restrictive laws. We aren't so bad. It's just that whole thing with calling a revolver a loaded gun if the chambers are loaded is what screws me up. The other option is to get a concealed carry permit, but that's not something I really want to do. There's a cost involved with it, and to me it just seems an aggravation. I'm not really concerned about concealing. That isn't my prime motivation. It's just to have one handy. But, you can't put it under the seat, then it's concealed. It has to be sitting on the seat in plain view. So it gets complicated. It may be better off just, instead of counting on getting more cheap disposable ammunition for the tokarev, it might be better just to go and stick right with the M70A. Because I don't like, the thing about the Makarov is the brass is even harder to find. And like I said, that tends to really throw it. Though, smaller gun, little smaller, a little more compact, though probably weight-wise ain't a heck of a lot of difference. I should maybe practice more with this one. Because basically the same gun.